Hello friends and enemies, it's me Isabel here with my April high, lows, disappointments, DNFs, stats, all the fun stuff. So instead of doing wrap-ups where I go through every single book I read because I talk about them all in my vlogs, we've streamlined. So far I'm enjoying this. Hopefully y'all are too. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. We'll see. You know, I could change my mind mid-year, but for now, this is working great. Anyways, I find this a lot less stressful to do, if that makes sense. Also quicker at it, so here for that. Anyways, let's dive right into my stats for April. I'm gonna caveat this. I don't normally, I read a lot, okay? If you're new here, I read a lot. Just because I read a lot does not mean you have to read as much as I read, does not mean I'm judging you for how little or how much you read. I don't care. If you're happy with your reading, I'm happy with your reading. That is my mindset. That is always going to be my mindset. It was 30 and 30 in April, which means I did read a ton of manga, which inflated my stats significantly. So keep that in mind as I go through everything I read this month for stats. All right, first up, I did read 70 books in the month of April. I do count my DNFs here because I don't DNF often. I feel like it's fine to count them. And I normally wouldn't talk about the book that I DNF'd because it is by an author of color, but I think I need to share what wasn't working for me on it more than not talking about it benefits, like to help other people. So anyways, 70 books, including one DNF. 17,434 pages were read. I had an average rating of 4.71, which does not surprise me. I was reading so much manga, which means generally 4 and 5-star reads. I really don't pick up manga I don't love. It's too expensive of a hobby to read books I don't love. I listened to 35-ish hours of audiobooks, and that is at my sped up pace, not at like regular length. Read 4 KU titles, 6 books from the library. I had 0 rereads. Then my age demographic breakdown is 31 adult titles and 39 YA titles. Seems about right for the manga happening. And then format-wise, I read 5 ebooks, 11 audiobooks, and I read a total of 48 volumes of manga and 2 volumes of manhwas, as we're calling them. These are the digital webtoon style books. Tuesday, today is Sunday, you're getting this. Tuesday, you'll get my manga log where I go through everything I read that was not in, well, we rehashed stuff, but anyways, either way, Tuesday you get the manga log. We'll dive into that more there. Let's dive right into my DNF of the month. So like I said, I don't DNF often enough. I need to DNF more, okay? Because if nothing else this month taught me is I need to DNF more, because the one book I DNF'd, I felt really bad about because it was my members pick for the month, which is Sweet Vengeance. I really wanted to read this book. I had heard there's pegging in this book. It sounded like a monster book I would really enjoy overall, but I was left feeling, I read about 20% of it, and I have to tell you that the content warning list for this book is massive. So do take that into account. And it does discuss these things in the content warnings, but the quickness that it was on the page, I was not prepared for. How heavy the content of this book felt, I was not prepared for. This follows a girl who summons a demon and gives herself to the demon to get rid of her rapist. And this book deals heavily in sexual assault and things like that, obviously. And I just, like, we literally had a conversation in less than 20% with a best friend about her uncle sexually assaulting her as a child. And I just, like, I'm just not in a place right now where I can read that. I can read, like, over-the-top dark romances right now, but I can't read stuff that feels too real. And this felt too real and, like, too much. And the reason I did want to make sure I talked about this book is because I loved the writing in this book. I think it was really good writing. And I'm curious to see what else they write because I would pick that up. Like, I'm not turned off from this author because I DNF'd this one book. I'm just was unable right now to deal with the contents of this book. It just was too much. Like I said, I read the content warnings. I was like, I'll be fine. These aren't really big ones for me usually. And when I got there, it was just not, it was not working. So I did DNF this. Let's talk about my disappointments / lows because I should have DNF'd some of these. So first up, we have Rule Number 5 by Jessa Wilder. I talked about this, or Jay Wilder. I talked about this in my vlog last week. Like, I had a rant at the end of the vlog. It's timestamped if you want to watch it. The rant is probably kind of funny, I feel like. But this is a hockey romance I picked up because of Book Talk, of course. It had the moment I love, I'm addicted to in hockey romances is in which he's in someone else's jersey and he is pissed. And he takes his jersey off and puts it on her. And I just think it's so fun. And I think it's such a silly, like, it's so silly and it's so funny. And I adore it immensely. So I picked this up because it kept getting pitched to me as having this. And it was college. They're like seniors. So I was like, that's fine, whatever. Like I can do college sports romances. That doesn't bother me. But she has, our heroine, Sid, has 5 rules. And her rules are about like how she's going to get through college successfully and start her political career. And one of those rules, of course, is not dating hockey players, not falling in love, no kissing, you know, no more than one night, like all these things, no giving phone numbers. And Jackson Ryder is here to break those rules. And he does. He slowly unpieces her and unravels her rules. And I really, really liked him as a hero. I think he was great. But the entire book, once you hit about 50%, you're just spending the time waiting for the 3rd act breakup. And you're not able to enjoy the time they are together in that portion because you're just waiting. You are on the edge of your seat waiting for that 3rd act breakup because you know it's coming. And the solution's so simple. And then what he does, I'm not going to go into it here, but it's in the vlog if you're curious. I have like spoiler tags. Go watch. What he does in his like redemption thing, like for them to get back together, is so silly and dumb, but also funny. Like it was kind of funny. But I also was like, you could have done this weeks ago, months ago. We didn't have to go through this. So yeah, there's that. I didn't dislike Sydney as a main character. She was fine. I just didn't love her as much as I liked Jax. And I didn't love the way that 3rd act went. It just did not work for me. I can do a 3rd act breakup. I don't mind them. Did not work here though, at all. Then I read Puck Me Secretly by Odette Stone, which is one that I've had on my list forever. And I'm going to say this was like slight disappointment because again, I had issues with the problem, like what was supposed to be the tension in the book. And I'm loving hockey romance. I'm living in this space right now and enjoying it immensely. But some of these books are not it. So this one is one that I do think is still worth picking up. I don't think I would pick up rule number 5. I would still pick up Puck Me Secretly because I love the setup for how they meet. They meet on a plane. She is like terrified of flying and he talks her through and calms her down as the plane crashes. And he like picks her up and carries her out of the plane and takes care of her at the hotel that night. It has like spectacular caretaking. And the way their relationship ends up being that like, oh no, she's the daughter of the owner of the team he's going to play for. And her dad has bad feelings about him because of something. He reminds him of someone. And we don't get that info until towards the end of the book. And it's so dumb how cagey they are about this information, okay? Like, it's so dumb and it's so annoying. And he's also cagey about why he left the team he was on and what he did and why he did what he did. And then, like, when all of that comes out, it's fine and good and dandy. And I really liked both these characters immensely. And I loved the caretaking and I loved how much he wanted to take care of her and make sure that like no harm came to her. Cause like she kept kind of getting put into shitty situations as the coach is the owner's daughter. Because of course, like nepotism, she's not getting the respect she deserves, even though she was working hard and doing her job. But yeah, it kind of follows like a lot of melodrama, which often is hockey books, right? And I wanted to love it. Like I wanted this to be like a 6-star favorite because it has such a bananas premise. You know, she literally confesses to him during the plane crash that she's never had an orgasm from someone else. And he fixes that. Like he's like, if we get out of this alive, I'll give you one. And he does. And then it's like, they're never supposed to see each other again. And then, oh shit, here you are. But it had like the wonderful found family element that I like in a lot of hockey romances as well. But like I said, the climax stuff, no spoiler wise, I don't want to give it away, really was a struggle for me. So this ended up being like more of a 3.5, 4, like a high 3.5-ish. Like 3.5-ish instead of like a 4 or 5, like I thought it would be. So just a bit of a disappointment. And then last but not least in my disappointments is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. If you want the slowest book you've ever read in your life, even though you're listening to an audiobook of it, this is your book. If you want to pick this up because they say, Howl's Moving Castle-esque hero, sure, I guess. This was not a terrible book, but it was not the book for me. I giving it 3 stars. I do think I will read the sequel, which I don't know what that says about me. I'm just kind of curious where the world's going, so I may pick up the sequel still. But I did not like this book that much. I wanted to love this book. I wanted to be immersed in this weird, fantastical world of fairies. Our female main character, our heroine, she is very autistic coded in my opinion, and I enjoyed that aspect. I liked her like trying to figure out how to fit into this northern like, is she in Sweden? Norway? Somewhere, I don't know, somewhere cold in Europe. She's there trying to fit in, trying to find her way. Her colleague shows up and she suspects him of actually being Fae, and we just go on this journey where he is kind of a disaster of a person. And lo and behold, she ends up like kidnapped by the Fae. And like it's in like the Fae elements were really interesting. But for me, the issue here completely 100% is the fact that it is told through journal entries and you are told, not shown, so much that I could not stand it. I was so frustrated. I still have my copy. It's a beautiful book, just not for me. All right, let's talk about my surprises. I have 2. So that's exciting. I actually have 2 surprises this month. So first up, we have Bewitched by Laura Thalassis. This surprised me because I was nervous. Because like I said, I've had hit and miss with Laura Thalassis books. Bewitched, though, I'm Team Laura now. I am a fan, to say the least. This was so much fun. This follows our heroine, Celine, who is trying to get into this coven that's kind of hard to get into, and she's got to like go on a new hero's quest because what she did before wasn't enough, and hopefully find a familiar. Well, she ends up in South America. The plane crashes. She's hearing voices in her head. She helps land the plane with her magic, and every time she uses her magic, she loses her memories, which is bananas. That is like terrifying as a concept, right? So as that goes on, she ends up letting this guy named Manon out, who's like a warlord barbarian type. And oh no, he and her were married in a past life perhaps and are soulmates. And we follow her journey of this entire thing exploding. And by the time we end, I was like, I need book 2 now. Like I need book 2 right now. I need to know what is going to happen. So I'm pumped. I really liked this. I'm giving it a 4-star. I'm seriously pumped for book 2. I cannot wait for it to come out. I'm going to like have my eyes peeled for the arc to drop because I need to know. I need this book so much. I need this book. This was an absolute blast and I absolutely adored everything that happened in it. It really was fun. I think for me, like the main reason it's a 4 is like the way it ended. I was just so frustrated that like if the whole series wraps up nicely and I love it, it may very well be a favorite series or a 5-star read overall. But until I have book 2 in my hands, it can't be. But yeah, this surprised me. I just, you know, I'm always craving magical school settings that are adult, not children. I mean, I love a kid's magical school setting too, but we don't get as much in the adult space. So I was ecstatic for this. All right, next we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace as a surprise. So I really liked this. It is, listen, caveat here. This book is solidly like probably 100 pages too long. Should never have been taken out of KU. Do not pay $9.99 for this book. But the reason it lives in this list on surprises for April is I was convinced I would not enjoy it. And I had a blast. I buddy read this with Steph over at Novelty Corner. We had an absolute blast reading this book. It was just really, really fun. It's really sweet. Like we have a dirty talking cinnamon roll hero. My weakness, I love a cinnamon roll dirty talker. Like they're so fun. So this was delightful. We had just really fun characters, a really fun character arc. And I have to give props for how much I hated our villain in this book. Her skating partner, Adam. Like I don't know the last time, every time a character was on page that I was like, boo, hiss, go away. Because that's how I felt every time he showed up. I would be like voice noting stuff like, oh, he's back. I want him gone. I hate him so, like both of us just back and forth. So props for how much I disliked that one. But yeah, honestly, I had a blast and it kind of kicked off my like, I need more of the jealous jersey scenes. And here I am in a hockey romance era because we're going to talk about my favorites for April and my highs, the best things I think I read last month. First up, we have, listen, okay, I'm sorry. I hate to do this. I don't like being this person. This comes out in July. I can't wait. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Yes, this is former Raylo fic, y'all. I'm not going to be shy about it. We know I enjoy my former Raylo fics here. This was so fun. This is a second chance romance between a florist, he's a florist, and she's a wedding planner / designer. She's broken out on her own into her own business and gets the opportunity of a lifetime to help a influencer couple, like one of them's an influencer, plan their wedding and do it like with a really big budget. And they, one of the brides works with his mom, who's in like politics. And she suggested him, of course, for flowers. So he's taken over his dad's business since his dad passed from cancer. So content notes here, we do talk about like passing parents and cancer and things like that in this. It's told in 2 perspectives. We get his perspective from the past and her perspective in the current. And the way that worked was really well for like the breakup of that worked really, really well for me. I am absolutely obsessed with Elliot. I am absolutely obsessed with Amma. I am going to be rereading this before it comes out. I've ordered a final print copy. I like this enough that I ordered a final copy. And when my friend Dana over at Forever messaged me and was like, do you want an ARC? I was like, yes, please. I need an ARC of this. That's how much I love this. That's how much I loved it. Okay. Like, yeah, this is their like rekindling of this relationship that was meant to be. She's also a commitment phobe because her mom's been married a bunch of times. And because of that, she doesn't want to get married, and like he kind of pushes, and that's what made them crumble in the first place. And they have to like come back together and figure out what it means for them to be together. And if that's feasible, obviously it's a romance, so it is. But I loved this. I don't usually like wedding setting books, but this worked really well for me. So absolutely loved it. See me screaming about that at the end of the year. So guaranteed. All right, the next, I'm going to just lump these three together, and that is the Emily Rath Jacksonville Rays universe. So I read that one night, Pucking Around and Pucking Ever After. So I read all three. So I did indeed read like 800 and some pages, maybe 9 of Emily's writing this month. And y'all, hello, you can blame this for my hockey romance marathon, okay? First of all, if you're curious about these, try that one night first. That is the meeting of one of Rachel, our heroine, and one of the guys in the polyamorous relationship. Book 1, they meet in Seattle. She's there for her brother's wedding. One night stand. Lo and behold, months later, she starts a job as an intern, a doctor intern residency thingy-bobs. I don't know the words. For the Jacksonville Rays. And lo and behold, who is there but Jake? Oh, and Caleb. And Elmari. And we enter into what becomes a very big polyamorous relationship, and swords cross and lots of group sex happens. Listen, it is kind of 700 and some pages of make your bits feel something, but also just really fun and enjoyable and engaging. If you told me I was going to read that book in like 2 days, I would have told you were freaking nuts. But I did. I read that book in 2 days. I am obsessed with Emily Rath's writing. I am obsessed with this book. I'm waiting for her store to open because I want to get signed copies, and then I'm going to annotate it. Like, that's how much I like this book. I want to annotate it. So good. It's so good. It's so good. And I honestly will probably pick up Emily's other titles. She has historical polyamorous romances, or why chooses. So yeah, I'm going to pick those up at some point. But the Jacksonville Rays, those boys have my heart. The third act situation in this one, spectacular as well. And they very much just lean into well, this is what we are and this is what we're going to do, and we don't really care what other people think. And I love when that happens. That's like one of my favorite things. So absolutely obsessed. Thrilled I read these. If you've been on the fence and you think you want to try it, I think you should try, because Emily Rath's writing was very digestible and readable. I know the page count is scary and intimidating, but I think they're worth a go, okay? I do think they're worth the hype. So, yeah, absolute blast. So, the last thing I read that was also an ARC, like, Forget Me Not, is King of Pride by Anna Wong. This is the newest book in her whatever this current series is. We have a buttoned-up hero who is a filthy, filthy, dirty talker. And I love this. Cade, our hero in this book, is very different from Anna's other heroes. And I deeply appreciated that fact. I don't know that I'll ever not love an Anna Wong book. Like, there's been some that are like less than 5 stars for me. But for the most part, she sits pretty heavily in the 5-star category. I devour her books within 24-ish hours of getting my ARCs. It's just something I do. I don't know. They work for me immensely well. And it's not something that's always like duplicatable in other authors' spaces. So for me, King of Pride is probably my new favorite of all her books, honestly. We have a forbidden romance happening where she works for Valhalla Club and shouldn't date him because he's a member and also on the board currently. But we also are following this like him Kai taking over his family's business as CEO and what that means, and him being with someone who is worthy of him, as his mother would say. But there's more to Isabella than you think. Spectacular. The setup also that we're getting for King of Greed in this book, edge of my seat, y'all. I cannot wait to get that arc in October. I am dying for King of Greed. I need this second chance romance, marriage in trouble situation immediately. I need to know what's going on over there. I'm very curious. But either way, Isabella is trying to find her way and figure out her path in life and write a book and all these things. And she just struggles with not feeling like enough. And I love how much Kai lifts her up and motivates her and gives her the love she needs to see that she is enough and that she can do this. Spectacular. I freaking love this book. So if you've liked other Anna Wongs and you haven't picked up one recently, I don't think you could go wrong picking this up. This was just so, so good. So those are my highs, lows, and my DNFs for the month of April. Let me know in the comments what you read and loved last month. And if you don't want to do that, leave me a airplane emoji. And I will be back to talk to you in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away. This is what we